Pursuant to Internal Revenue Service guidance, be advised that any federal tax advice contained in this program is not intended to be used, and it cannot be used by any person or entity for the purpose of avoiding any tax penalties that may be imposed by the Internal Revenue Service or any other U.S. federal taxing authority or agency, or promoting, marketing, or recommending to another party any transaction or matter addressed in this show. The opinions expressed by the host and the guests are their own and may not be used as authoritative advice. Any use of this material without the written consent of the host is strictly prohibited.
Welcome back. I am your host, Attorney Stephen Leahy, and this is the IRS Radio Hour on AM 560.
The Answer. So this is the part of the show where we get our friend, Dr. Richard Fader of Fort Wayne, Indiana, asking questions.
What question does Dr. Fader have this week,
Dr.
Jim?
Fader said, I filed bankruptcy in 2008 when the economy went into the dumper. And the economy being what it is now, I have IRS problems. Is it possible for me to file bankruptcy again?
Well, I get this question a lot. And
not from me.
And the answer is maybe. Okay, because there's the bankruptcy laws are kind of complicated, and there's different chapters, as we've talked a lot on this show about. There's different chapters, and there's different rules.
Nice segue.
For different chapters. There's different rules. So, for instance, Chapter 7, you can only get a Chapter 7 discharge after 8 years. So you have to wait 8 years in between cases in order to get another Chapter 7 discharge. The rule used to be 6 years until 2005, and they changed it to 8 years. So now, so if Dr. Fader filed in 2008, here we are in 2014, that's only 6 years. Wouldn't be able to file a Chapter 7. Doesn't mean he can't get bankruptcy protection, though, because there's another chapter, and that chapter is Chapter 13, and there's also Chapter 11. But Chapter 13 will allow you to file and discharge your debts after 4 years. So if I had a discharge of my debts in 2008, and I wait 4 years, so now it's 2014, it's 6 years, and if I filed a Chapter 13, at the end of my Chapter 13, I could still get a discharge of my debts. Well, what's the difference? Well, the difference is in the Chapter 13, I have to make payments for 3 to 5 years. So I have to pay something back. So I'm not going to be able to just file a Chapter 7 and then walk away from my debt. I'm going to have to file a Chapter 13 and pay some of my debt off. And so there's another one, and this is interesting because in the bankruptcy community.
When will we get there?
In the bankruptcy community. What do you mean, to the interesting part?
Yes.
In the bankruptcy community, we have what they call a Chapter 20. And a Chapter 20 is a Chapter 7 and a Chapter 13 combined.
Put together.
That's right. That's
7 and 13 is 20.
Man, you're brilliant. Okay, so this is the kind of strategy.
Thank you.
If I have a lot of debt, because we mentioned that in Chapter 13, sometimes my IRS debt will give me too much. I'll have too much debt to file a Chapter 13. So I had a client very recently. His debt was over $250,000 to the IRS. And so that prevents you from filing a Chapter 13.
But it doesn't prevent you from running to Tijuana.
No, it doesn't. But what you can do, and say you're behind in your home and you want to file a Chapter 13 to save your home. And I have some older IRS debt, but the debt is too big, and it prevents me from filing a Chapter 13. So what I can do is I can file a Chapter 7. I can discharge all the dischargeable debt, get that number back down under the level that allows me to file a Chapter 13, and then I can file a Chapter 13.
And then it's a Chapter 20.
That's right. Now, I won't be able to discharge any debt, but I can use Chapter 13 to repay the mortgage so I can keep my home that way. So there's strategic ways to go about and filing multiple cases. Again, sometimes if husband and wife do this. Now you have to be careful because they call this tag team serial filing, and sometimes that's not good. Right?
If they got names for it, it's not good.
The judge will come down hard on you for this sometimes. But you have to use it. I've had cases where people filed multiple cases, and the mortgage company has accused them of a tag team. And what happens is in 2005, as I mentioned, they changed the law, and one of the changes of the law said, well, if you're filing these tag teams, we can get what they call an in rem judgment against you, and not in bankruptcy. That means you can't. Nobody in the world can file another bankruptcy case and stop the sale of that house. Because every time someone files a bankruptcy, if it's me, if it's my wife, maybe I transfer the property to my cousin, and then he files a bankruptcy, and he says, "Well, I own that house, so you can't sell it." So people use the bankruptcy laws to prevent the mortgage company delay. They call it hinder or delay or defraud your mortgage company.
Those aren't good words.
No, those aren't good words. And so some people do this. But most of my clients, they're just trying to save their home, and so there are ways to go about it and to fight it.
So what you're saying is it's just another arrow in the quiver.
That's right. Very good, Jim.
Thank you.
I always use the tool belt analogy rather than the arrow in the quiver, in that you need all the tools in order to help somebody. You can't have just one tool. So when people go to a bankruptcy lawyer, guess what kind of remedy he's going to have? Right? He's going to have a bankruptcy. Maybe bankruptcy.
Everything is a pipe problem to a plumber.
That's another.
I'm just going after analogy after analogy, ladies and
another
gentlemen.
Accurate description. Okay, so if you're that's why when you're having IRS problems, or if you're having any kind of financial problems, then you have to seek out the right kind of lawyer.
Somebody needs to know these different chapters and how to be able to do this.
That's right, and we've talked about it here that sometimes IRS resolution companies don't offer bankruptcy, even though bankruptcy might be the best option for you. Sometimes foreclosure lawyers don't know anything about Chapter 13, so they can't really help you save your home. All they can do is prevent or delay the inevitable.
So what you're saying is it has to be a personal answer to everybody, and they should have somebody like yourself.
That's right. So they should.
Oh, that was Dr. Fader talking.
If this is happening to you, then you should call us at the office at 312-664-6649.
Follow us on Facebook or like us on Facebook.